The Incredible Hulk is undoubtedly the MCU film that people always leave behind and forget about and leave near the bottom of their ranking lists, and I really do not see how. I think this film at least deserves some recognition, and don't get me wrong, it isn't perfect, but I prefer it to a fair few other MCU films. The biggest thing that possibly makes this film stand out is maybe Edward Norton. I think he's overall a great actor, and whilst I prefer Mark Ruffalo as this specific character, I really enjoyed Norton's portrayal of Bruce Banner as well. But without a doubt, this film is a bit of an odd one out for the franchise. It was phase 1 of the MCU and they were still finding their feet. Another smaller thing is also the design of the Hulk. I mean, I really like this design he has in this film. It is much more of a horror design, I feel, and it definitely would look out of place with the rest of the Avengers, but I still like it. Especially in the start of the film, it really portrays him in a horror fashion, in the shadows killing everyone from within the darkness, only showing small parts of him at a time, and I think that is a really cool take on this character. From what I know, Norton wanted to focus more on the character aspects and make it a bit more psychological, and I think that would be a great thing to dive into. I mean, they weren't afraid to have a go at Tony's PTSD after the events of the Avengers, and Shane Black did that really well in my opinion. It was one of the best aspects of that film. I'm sure you all saw the deleted scene of Bruce shooting himself and the Hulk spitting it out, which did happen as it was referenced by Bruce in the Avengers, and I think diving into the inner struggle of Bruce would have been a great direction for this character, and honestly, in the whole first phase of the MCU, things felt much more real in these first few films, which I think is a thing here better than the others. But we aren't here to talk about what the film could have been, we are here to talk about how the film that happened is underrated. I think the direction of Bruce trying to keep the Hulk inside and go on the run from Ross was maybe the most simple way to go, but I still find it very entertaining. I mean, Bruce just being the unwilling target of Ross and his team makes me feel for Bruce, and I think Edward Norton really sells this. He wants to go back to his life before all this hulky business, but Ross is so determined to capture Banner due to the experiment. And we then have Blonsky, who I guess is just a very angry man. I don't really know what his deal is, to be honest. He was more of just an active physical threat, I think. And of course he ends up as Abomination. Speaking of, I don't hate the design, I don't love it either, but I suppose it kind of fits the environment of this film. And I'd love to see him come back still. I think Kevin Feige said he is still out there, just in a prison or something. Speaking of that, I love the last fight in this film. I think it's a ton of fun, and I genuinely think the CGI is not bad. I mean, I think it's better than some of the effects in Captain Marvel and some other MCU films. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely not all great and not perfect by a long way. But I don't find it bad, and I don't find it any way you cannot enjoy watching the final battle, or this film as a whole, to be honest. Another thing in this film that isn't spoken about is the music. I really enjoy the music in this film. But about the ending, it was a clear setup for the reveal in the Avengers that about Banner learning to control at least somewhat when the Hulk comes out. The best stuff in this film is maybe the stuff that makes it stand out from the MCU. The dynamic between Hulk and Banner was one of the most interesting things I find about the character, which is why I'm on the fence about Professor Hulk. I don't dislike him, I just don't know if I prefer it to the one we had before. A lot of the problems here, though, are really the differentiating ideas between Marvel and Edward Norton, with him wanting to dive a bit deeper. You can tell, and it struggles to choose which way it wants to go, because it wants to be a big action blockbuster superhero film, but it also wants to be a monster thriller psychological film. But I think the team did a great job despite all of this, and I know it's very unlikely we'll get another Hulk film, especially anytime soon. But I don't think the Hulk can have the story and development he deserves without having his standalone film. And I can wish for another Hulk film starring Mark Ruffalo. Maybe Disney can find a way to make it happen with Universal. I think it's a great way to keep the MCU going as well. Is trying new things. I mean, maybe do a film on a smaller scale based before Age of Ultron or between some other films and dive into the mind of Banner. And yeah, it'd be a more serious film, but I think the MCU could do with some variety. I think that'd be a good thing for the universe as a whole. I don't think this is a good film though, don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. But today I wanted to focus on why I think it's the most underrated film in the MCU. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of The Incredible Hulk. Take care everyone, and I will see you in the next one.